India, the most populous country on earth. Nearly 1.5 billion people call it home. Home to roughly 20% of the world's population with a GDP of $4.15 trillion. It is one of the most diverse, influential, and frankly unique places in the world. It has lived in the shadow of their eastern neighbor China for many years now. Many thought as the world's largest democracy, they would rise up to become the new factory of the world after China. However, that democracy seems to be a source of huge protests and disruption across the country. A new movement has been born in the land of the spices. The cockroaches are challenging India's institutions to the core, seeing if the country is willing to leave tradition behind and take the next steps to move closer to what many perceive as its rightful place in the world as one of the most powerful countries on earth. I'm Jeff, your host for Casualities today, and we are going to cover the goings-on the massive subcontinent. The world's largest democracy is going through what many are dubbing another Gen Z protest, as well as the birth of the Cockroach Janta Party. You are probably wondering, what does any of that even mean? Well, let's start with explaining Gen Z protests. This whole kerfuffle started out because of a scandal related to medical school entrance exams in India. The National Eligibility Cum Entrance Exam, I know that's the name, or NEET for short, is essentially the end-all be-all of aspiring doctors. Over 2.27 million took the test on May 3rd of this year, with only 144,000 spots available in medical schools, meaning that roughly 6% will actually get into medical schools. Everyone else will fail and have to try again next year, and there's no cap, but essentially most people have to give up after 5. It was announced on May 12th, though, that the professors who had helped formulate the test have been selling the test questions to wealthy individuals and giving family access to the questions as well. The National Testing Agency deemed the test results as illegitimate and said everyone will have to take the tests again, forcing everyone who took what is most likely the most stressful moment of their lives and live it over once more. The estimates vary widely, but it is confirmed that at least 12 people have taken their own lives from this. Outrage was sparked, and people demand change. On May 15th, the Chief Justice of India's Supreme Court will call the people protesting unemployed and activists, further explaining both are cockroaches and parasites on society, suggesting they need to be removed from society. This just made the fire in the hearts of many Indians burn with an insane intensity. Abhijit Dipka, a man from the Dalit caste, which is essentially the untouchables, those that are viewed as almost subhuman and shouldn't be able to do anything other than basic service work for others, who moved to the U.S. when he was young and became a political activist over in the United States, created the Cockroach Party on May 16th of this year. Posting about it across social media, the party would gain millions of followers in just a matter of weeks. In June, he would return to India, starting mass protests around the Jantar Mandar Observatory. Once a symbol of India's great wealth and investment in education, now a parody of the corrupt bureaucracy that the country has turned into. These protests would be led by tens of thousands of students, many of which were organized by local student bodies, and despite organizing the party, Dipka wasn't the actual leader. A feature of the now famous Gen Z protests, which are demonstrations led by Gen Z youths that don't coalesce behind leaders, but instead are a true movement of the people. And India is very familiar with these kind of protests since 3 of them happen to neighbor countries, and these protests have overthrown all 3 of their neighbors' governments. Now, to go back to the protests in India, what exactly are the cockroaches demanding? So after some deliberating and going back and forth, the Cockroaches elected several spokesmen online, and the single primary demand became very clear. They did have others, but the one that they demanded must happen was they wanted the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. He has been the education minister since 2021. However, his background is in energy and heavy metal manufacturing, playing a key role in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's economic plan of making India an export hub. He was put into this position to help guide more people into the trades and things that can help India build up its export base. However, since he took over, the education system has been hit with near constant scandals that have overwhelmed the court system. The National Testing Agency, a subsidiary of the Ministry of Education, has been hollowed out from corruption trials and extremely ineffective implementation of testing. The cockroaches have had enough, claiming they won't stop until he is gone and that his stench is cleansed from the education system. Now, Narendra Modi, who actually rose to power in 2011 on the back of similar protests against several scandals, now his India's People Party, the BJP, kicked out the Indian National Congress, which had been ran by the Gandhi family and has been in charge of India for nearly a decade. He ran on a platform of populist Hindu nationalism and self-sufficiency. He initially refused to let his education minister resign. However, after a lawyer who came to speak at one of the protests at Jantar Mandar, talking about how his own son took his own life because of the test cancellation and that he is protesting to save his other son's life, chants of hundreds of thousands could be heard in every major city across the nation, resulting in cities coming to a complete close and shutting down entirely. Modi would try to utilize state control and media editing to present these protests in a negative light. However, social media was just too large to really stop, and local print and cable media mostly ignored it, taking away much of the leverage the administration had. Police then began to make arrests. However, due to the decentralized nature of the movement, it was extremely difficult for Modi to get rid of this without bloodshed or change, creating a game of political chicken to see who will blink first. And in the end, Modi would. He saw that his education minister wasn't worth defending and let him resign in disgrace. With that being done, the Cockroach Party announced that they would stop the protests with hopes that the test would be reformed and the system will make the adjustments needed. And to that point, Modi has put forward reforms for the NEET and will make the process more transparent. However, the Prime Minister is still going to attack the cockroaches legally and trying to destroy the movement via bureaucracy and litigation, something that has historically been an issue within India. After this strategy became obvious to the cockroaches, they decided the published manifesto that they made back in May with 5 points in it would still be sought by the movement, announcing that they won't just go into that good night, but they will continue to fight for all regular Indians, believing that even though their main goal was done, since they're still being attacked, they need to do further things. And that discussion is beyond the scope of this video. And if you are interested in understanding the wider story with how Indian politics is affecting the world, please let me know by liking this video and commenting and saying how much more you'd like to know about the Indian politics. However, the casualties of it all, despite having so many people, it is physically impossible to fathom. The people have shown they have power to still influence their country, protesting at the symbols of India's history, asking their leaders why they must live like peasants in the remains of a once great civilization. Modi has been the undisputed ruler of India and has delivered many promises that come at a cost. Now, the cockroaches have shown that Indians don't want to pay that cost anymore. And the question is, will Modi be willing to adapt so he is able to continue leading India? I will in the future release a video type demands, how it affects us and show how it plays into Indian politics in general, connecting all of it to how it affects us all around the world.